who do you want to be with money? Remember that you're doing this for future you, to make your life easier in 10, 20, 30 years, learning to save and then getting your money working for you. If you can be excited about those two things, you are so set up.
From To Be Magnetic, this is the Expanded Podcast with your host, Lacey Phillips.
And your host, Jessica Gill.
As the leading destination for neural manifestation, we dispel the woo-woo in order to help you create real, tangible results based on neuroplasticity, psychology, epigenetics, and energetics. Our goal is to normalize the practice of manifestation and empower you to get into the driver's seat of your life in order to manifest the experiences, relationships, and things that most align with your authenticity. And by pressing play, the process begins.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Expanded. We are in the thick of our TBM Money Challenge. If you've fallen off or you haven't joined yet, no worries. You can join anytime. It is completely self-facilitated. You can go at your own pace. These 3 weeks are the medicine, the gold that you need to get to the next level of abundance in your life. No matter where you're at, if you're starting from square one, or if you have a really abundant life, but you just want to get into that next level, you want to be more integrated, you want to be more authentic, this is going to be the challenge for you. We have our big summer sale going on. You can join anytime and lock in the lowest rates of the season. These prices will not last. So if you want to join our membership or if you want to join this money challenge, get in at that $22 a month price point, and we cannot wait to see you in there. I know personally, this has been some of the biggest and deepest transformation portals that I've been on in a while, and I feel like I've been on a lot. So this just feels like another one. But the one caveat I'll say is this is the lightest and deepest I have felt going through a challenge, meaning that because we anchored this abundance to so much more than just money, it's your freedom, it's your energy, it's your expression, it's your time, and it's your connection with nature and spirituality and so much more beyond you. I feel so rooted in the connection with nature, with spirit, with myself, with my soul. And from that place, it makes navigating these really challenging blocks that are standing in the way so much easier and more comforting. And the manifestations are also coming faster. I think in part because so many people avoid finances. They avoid looking at this stuff. They avoid looking at their money blocks. They avoid all of that. So even just the commitment to start looking at it, to start unpacking it, to start reconnecting with it is starting to create instant magnetism. So many people are manifesting new job opportunities, bridge career opportunities, new tenants, manifesting homes, manifesting unlocks with their blocks that they have been trying to get to the root of for years. And finally, the clarity is coming through. I mean, the stuff that's happening is just probably the most profound I've ever seen in any challenge. So if you guys are interested in this and want to join us, now is the time. We'd love to have you. And I just really am holding my heart-centered space for all of you in this because I know how impactful this is going to be to really transform the trajectory of your life. And we couldn't have a money challenge without having a money expert on the podcast. So today we have on Britt Baker of Dow Janes. Now, Dow Janes is a platform that is trying to empower women with money. What is the foundations they need to set up? How can they move through their debt? What are the practical steps in investing? How to debunk this process so it doesn't feel like a giant educational barrier for anyone who really wants to feel secure in their finances. Because if you don't understand something, it's really hard to feel secure in doing it. So this is going to help bridge that gap and make it a lot easier to find practical steps of what you can change with your finances right now. And diving in, I'd been following them for years, but I was like, oh my gosh, yes, this is exactly who we need to have come on and speak to you guys during the challenge to give you a lot more of the practical tips. We're moving into week 3 of this challenge, which is going to look at where we value our skills, our energy, and it's also going to look at aligned action, opening and closing portals. Part of the opening of portals and part of aligned action is putting together the steps and pieces you need to set up your money foundation. Now, for everyone, that looks different. And we have a little workspace in there that's going to break down some of the steps that you can use. But this episode will really be a roadmap for you to just percolate on what action steps you need to set up to get in a more confident, secure place with your finances and with money. Dow Janes is also hosting a money reset retreat. And if you use coupon EXPANDED, all caps EXPANDED, you can get $10 off their virtual seminar, which is coming up in the next week. So if you're looking for an even more deep dive after this episode, that's an excellent place to get some more tactical money tips. And I just want to remind everyone that we are not your financial experts. This is an educational podcast, so make sure to do your own research, to talk to a financial expert before making any major moves with your finances.
And now, a word from our partners.
Speaking of manifestations, one major manifestation that has come through for me recently is Bond Charge's infrared PEMF mat. Their PEMF mat, which stands for Pulse Electromagnetic Field, is a magnetic energy mat that sends energy waves to work with your body's natural magnetic field and improve your overall well-being. Now, I originally heard of PEMF mats back in the day. I used the first one at Lacey's Forest Retreat House, and I kind of didn't really think it was going to do anything at first. And when I laid on this mat, I'm telling you, my whole body just relaxed. My nervous system relaxed, and I fully was able to calm down. Fast forward a few years later, one of our absolute favorite companies, Bond Charge, has launched their own PEMF mat, and it is fully loaded with all the best biohacking techniques you can imagine. So not only do they have multiple frequency settings, one for delta waves to improve deep sleep, one for grounding and earthing that is in the frequency of Schumann's resonance, which is the Earth's magnetic field frequency, one for alpha waves to increase calm creativity, one for beta waves for logical thinking, conscious thought, or meditation, and one that cycles through all four to really align all different parts of your body. But that's not all. They also have red, near infrared, and far infrared light wave frequencies. You've heard me talk about this before, but red light therapy can be so impactful for muscle soreness, tension, pain in the body, detoxification, and so many more things. It is also packed with tourmaline gemstones, germanium gemstones, and amethyst crystals, which all help to balance your mood, keep you calm, activate spiritual awareness, open intuition, and attract positive ions from your body to keep you in that balanced state. And really exciting news from Bond Charge that all of their products, if you have an HSA or an FSA account, they're all eligible, giving you tax-free savings up to 40% on any product you buy from Bond Charge. This is huge. And it's also really cool that they're getting recognized for how much these biohacking products are impacting your health in such a meaningful way. So if you are interested in trying Bond Charge's new infrared PEMF mat, you can use the code MAGNETIC, that's all caps, MAGNETIC for 15% off. Again, that's magnetic, MAGNETIC for 15% off. Or you can go to bondcharge.com/pages/magnetic and check out some of the other incredible biohacking low EMF products that Bond Charge has to offer.
All right, on to the episode.
I am so excited to have on Britt Baker of Dow Janes. I've been following your account for a while, and it wasn't until we announced that we were doing our Manifestation Money Challenge, and one of our members was like, for the practical side of money, you have to talk to Dow Janes. Like, I just took their masterclass. It's amazing. So many things, so in tandem, so in line with all of the TBM philosophies. So welcome, Britt. We're so excited to have you.
Love that. Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Okay, so we were talking before we were recording, and we were kind of breaking down the personas that we're seeing within our community and just in the collective and around us right now. So you guys have like a little roadmap depending upon where you're at with finances at this moment in time. So, okay, for the first person that we're noticing, this is the person that may be unemployed right now, someone that doesn't have a clear income. They have a savings or an FE fund they're living off of temporarily and maybe dwindling down. They're getting kind of nervous and they're not really sure, like, okay, the economy, all these things are happening. What should they be doing? Obviously, number one goal is to have that income source come in, but what are some insights or tips that you would have for someone in this time? We've had questions where people are like, should I go into my retirement fund and pull money out to like help float me? What should they do in those spaces?
Yeah. So it's a tough moment because when you don't have money coming in, there's really nothing you can do. You're living off your emergency fund. You're tempted to pull on your retirement. And those are the last two things you should do. You want to have your emergency fund there for you when you need it. And your retirement there's a huge benefit to retirement accounts, which we can get into. Basically, your money's growing tax-free in there. So try not to take it out of there. Really, if this is you want to find any way to make money. So it doesn't have to be your dream job. It could be walking dogs. It could be delivering groceries. It could be driving. It's just any way to make an income right now to float you a little longer. One of the things my grandmother always said to me was, when you're working, you're not spending. So whether or not that's your dream job or just any job, it's like, that's going to start to shift your spending. And so you'll be able to start saving and really cover your basic expenses. And then when you see your dream job come in, or when you're ready to apply for that dream job, then you can apply for it. But you've at least taken care of yourself in the meantime.
I feel like this is something that comes up with manifestation all the time, where people are like really waiting to like not settle so it's their full package. But if you are in that, I almost want to call it like the red zone in your finances, where it's like it is the closest it's ever been, I think that's where you have to check the ego and really say, you know what, I trust that dream job is coming. It just might not be coming right now, but it is coming. Taking a job that isn't my full list isn't going to set me back. It's actually going to help me propel forward. What it does when you take that job that maybe isn't everything on your list, it's getting you out of desperation. You can't really have that confidence and that ability to say no to the things that aren't your full list when you're needing money. You need money to support yourself. So any way that you can just start to open income portals there is going to be so, so huge. And then simultaneously, you can still pursue your dream job.
Absolutely. And one thing that people might not see is from the employer's perspective, you're a more attractive candidate when you already have a job. It tells us that you're employable and that you're hardworking. And so it's easier to land that dream job when you're coming from employment.
I love also how you said it doesn't have to look like, okay, you're going to have to go to a 9 to 5 for 40 hours a week necessarily. You could open little portals of dog walking or groceries, other like kind of odd jobs you can pick up that just allows a stream to come in.
Absolutely.
So good. Okay. So our second persona, this is someone who is living paycheck to paycheck, someone who maybe has some savings, but not like a substantial enough savings. And they're maybe unsure about investing. They're confused by investing. I know I was here in my 20s. I was like, what is a Roth IRA? And why do I have to give my money away to an investment piece that like I have no idea when I'm going to need it. Like I'm 20 years old. It feels so far away, but why is setting up the systems there so important? What should they be focused on?
Yeah, so when you're living paycheck to paycheck, kudos to you for not continuing to go in debt each month. Like that's at least progress that you're making money and you're spending it. So at least we're in like the positive direction. But the thing is, if you're actually spending everything that you make each month, you're not getting ahead. So, we can think of this as being on a hamster wheel. It's like you are spinning, you are working hard, and you're not going anywhere because you can't really get anywhere until you have savings. And when you have savings, then you can get your money working for you and you can earn interest on it so that when you're working, your money's actually like also working for you on the side and you can just move ahead faster. But when you're living paycheck to paycheck, you're getting by. As you all know, you're in this, you feel that, I'm sure. And there's really only two ways to change. You have to save money. You either have to earn more or spend less. And so earning more could look like adding side income to your regular job. It could mean asking for a raise, negotiating and sharing what you're contributing to the work that you do and why you should be earning more. Could be raising your rates if you're self-employed. And then spending less, we can get into this for like hours.
Yeah. Yeah. What does that look like?
Spending less really comes down. The first step is just bringing consciousness to your spending. So starting to pay attention to what you're spending money on. A lot of us spend money out of habit. We're used to buying something every month or doing something that costs a certain amount. And we don't even have the mentality of like, oh, I could not spend that. We're just so used to it. It's so ingrained. So consciousness is one. The other thing we teach at Dow Janes is values aligned spending. And so really identifying what are the things that you care about that you want to spend money on. And then what are those things that you're just spending money on that aren't really aligned with your values and how you want your life to be. And so starting to get really just more diligent about spending on your values, people inadvertently end up spending less.
You had a really powerful reel sharing your life in financial freedom. So how do you set up your life to honor your values? What does that look like?
Yeah. I'm a minimalist, so it makes it pretty easy. We live in a really small house. We live like right next to town, so we walk everywhere. It was like we're not spending a lot on gas, not spending a lot to heat our house because it's really sweet and tiny. I rent clothes. One of my values is environmental conservation and not really supporting fast fashion. And so I rent clothes, which allows, and I get a lot of clothes from clothing swaps with friends. And so that's another way that I'm like, I'm not spending money shopping or buying new items. So that's just one example.
I think that's great. If I think about friends and then other people in the community I know, like where they're spending that money is usually clothing, fashion, merchandise, the aesthetic, makeup, jewelry, accessories, that kind of stuff. Or it's like, and we've all been there, that trip to TJ Maxx or that trip to Target. And it's just like the random stuff you don't even realize. You don't even necessarily want it, but you're like, oh, that's cute. And there's like a dopamine rush in spending.
Yes.
So I think it's like checking that as well. What do you emotionally need? Instead of like, I am not feeling good, I'm going to take myself on a shopping trip. And it is soothing to buy something new and have that excitement of a new piece.
Yeah, we have a whole workshop on impulse spending and basically like looking at the underlying factors, like what's actually leading to this desire to impulse shop and what are the unmet needs that are worth looking at first.
So huge. Okay, so that part in spending. The other question I have around this person is like, what if they are not someone who budgets? What if they are like, I know how much I have because I move my savings into my checkings and I pay my credit card bill each month. That means I have enough to get by. But like, what would you say for someone who, I mean, I've been a budgeter since early 20s. I'm just so type A and neurotic, probably too much on the other end of the spectrum. But for people who are just like, I've tried, I don't maintain it. What do they actually need to do to help support themselves?
Yeah, it's a great question because we have worked with over 30,000 women at this point in our programs. And we see the spectrum. We see people who become obsessed with budgeting and we see people who are, never going to touch it. And so it's about finding what works for you. There are some apps that will just automatically track your spending and essentially like categorize it for you so you can kind of see it retroactively. And I would say at a minimum, do that because right now the problem is probably a lack of clarity. Like you need to know exactly how much you have coming in and how much you have going out each month. And it's really easy. There's a common persona of just head in the sand. I'm not going to look at it because if I look at it, I have to face reality. And so when you force yourself to look at it, you'll see like, I just was doing this yesterday with our family finances. And I was like, wow, we spend $2,000 at the grocery store across the street every month. That's a lot on groceries for a family of 2.5. So just like looking at it, bringing consciousness to it is like, that's how it starts to shift as you know what's really happening. So budgeting, I get it. Forward looking, assigning numbers, like it's not for everyone, but you do need to be looking at your numbers and know how much you're spending to make sure that you're not spending more than you're making.
What do you say for people who it's like, There's so much fear and shame, and it like spirals them out going into it. It's like a delicate balance. Sometimes finding out the information I've seen put people in such a spiral that it pushes them in so much desperation, fear, lack, scarcity, shut down. It almost like impedes them from making progress forward versus their blind head in the sand optimism. Like, I can figure it out. I'll just do this. And then they actually do get things going in that route. What is the balance between the two? And how do you recommend people move through that shame piece?
I'm so glad you brought this up. Yeah. So Dow Janes is all about holistic financial wellness. So it's not just savings and investing basics. We really look at your relationship to money and the emotions that come up when you think about your finances. And that's the only way that anything is going to change, is if you're willing to like be in the muck of the story. And so one of the first early steps we do in our program is have people look at their money stories, because a lot of shame comes up from either from mistakes they made in the past or ways that their parents used money that they just inherited, and isn't really them and isn't who they want to be. There's two things we do. One is everyone writes a new money persona, which is, who do you want to be with money that's yours, that you are going to own going forward? So not the way that, your mom or your guardian spent money, but the way that you want to spend money. We bring up values at this point, really get them in touch with how do they want to be? Do they want to be someone who saves? Do they want to be someone who's building wealth? Do they want to shift this generational pattern? And really getting to choose that. That's one thing that we do, is like your money persona. The other is really looking at your associations with money. So a lot of people have negative associations with wealth that they don't realize is holding them back. For my business partner, they're growing up, she was like, my parents always talked badly about our rich neighbors. And so I thought, I can't be rich because my parents don't like rich people. And so really just shifting or just noticing, what are your associations around money? Are they true? Is that what you want to believe or not?
1,000%. I mean, you can even see it on so much of the societal level, the amount of hate towards the billionaires of the world. Say what you want about their business practices, totally understand that. How they spend their money, use their time, got it. But the fact that they are billionaires, one of the messages that you're taking away from that public persona of them is that if you have money, you are bad. When it's like, how many millionaires or multimillionaires or even other billionaires that maybe aren't very public are spending money in a really positive, impactful, stewarding way and are changing the planet in a good way. We just might not hear about them as much. But if your story is, oh, those billionaires are bad, I don't want to be a billionaire, it does something to the brain where you're like, oh, I don't even want to try that hard for money because I don't want to get closer to that and detach from the collective or where most everyone else is at.
Exactly. Yeah, so well put.
How do you see that self-sabotage? If the story is negative about money, how do you see that self-sabotage show up in money habits?
Yeah, it's a lot of people who end up stuck in debt. This can be a thing that shows up. It's basically like, they tell themselves, I'm never going to be able to get out of debt, or they get themselves out of debt and they get right back into it. And it's really just not believing that they are someone who can be and stay debt-free. So one of the things we really enforce is a no shame culture. Just reminding people that no one taught you how to manage money. A lot of this is not your fault. Like, you probably didn't know how to use a credit card. They hand them out like candy on college campuses without any education for how quickly the interest adds up and what it really costs to buy something if you don't pay it off that month. And so really letting people off the hook for what has happened in their money past and letting them shift it going forward now.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I think about my own story with my parents, where my dad was someone who if he had a credit card to put it on, he considered that part of his cash. And then my mom is she could have lived off of a debit card. The second she spent on the credit card, it was paid off. And it was such a dichotomy between the two that the fear side of me was like, well, mom's seems like the safer way to go. So I better follow that to the T, which thanks, Mom. I learned some good money habits of paying off my credit card. But you can see how, especially if both parents lived that way of putting everything on the credit card, leaning on that, not really understanding the repercussions of that and paying it off, What would you say, especially this moment in time with everything going on in the economy, things feel a little unsettled. If someone has debt, what would be your rule of thumb of like, should they put, they're living paycheck to paycheck, or like maybe they're trying to put a little away to savings. Should they put more towards savings right now? Should they pay off the debt more? What's the break point between those things?
Yeah. So the steps that we teach are the first thing you want to do is at least have a starter emergency fund, or sometimes we call it a peace of mind fund. It's basically just enough so that as you're paying off your debt, if something horrible happens, you have this fund that you can turn to so you don't lose your progress. It's almost more psychological than it is practical. And so anywhere from $500 to $1,000 in this starter emergency fund. So that you build up first so that once you start paying off the debt, you can really make more progress. The second stage would be paying off that debt as fast as you can. And the reason for that is debt is by far the most expensive expense you have because of the interest rate on credit card debt. It's usually like 25%.
Wow.
And so when you're not paying that off, it's like an avalanche or a snowball. It's gathering momentum and it's getting worse and worse the longer you have it. And it compounds. Credit card interest compounds daily. So it's really hell. You want to get out of that as fast as you can. And so one of the things we just try to help people with is understand how much it's impacting their financial life. And so giving them the urgency to want to pay it off. And so that's the second thing you do is, pay off that debt. And then you actually build up your larger emergency fund. And I know a lot of people are tempted to wanting to invest or wanting to save up their emergency fund. But really the best thing you can do with any savings that you have when you have credit card debt is put it towards your credit card debt.
Okay. And then what if they have student loan debt? Does it depend on what their interest rate is at?
Exactly. It depends on the interest rate. So if your interest rate on your student loans is 6% or 5%, you can hold on to that and be investing or building up your full emergency fund at the same time. And the reason I say 6 or 7% is because that is lower than the interest rate that you would earn from investing. So that average historical returns of the stock market over the past 30 years is 9%. And so if you're paying interest of less than 9%, you can hold on to that for longer. And if you're paying more than 9%, you want to pay that off quickly.
Okay. So 9% is this is the priority. Let's get this down.
Exactly.
Is there any, if someone has debt over multiple credit cards, should they try to combine it? Is there benefits to that? Any other insights there?
Yeah, there's a couple different practices out there. We teach what we call the intelligent snowball method. So it's you start by paying off the smallest debt that you have, just so you can have that kind of sense of accomplishment. And then you go for the highest interest rate next. And that's because that's the most expensive one. There are other practices of debt consolidation or getting a loan to kind of cover the debt if you have access to a personal loan. And we have a whole 7-step debt pay down system in our program to really help people know that they're prioritizing the right thing and to help them negotiate lower rates and figure out, basically what's the fastest way that you can pay this off.
Okay. So then I can also imagine in this sector is how do they know how much they should be paying for things, right? So you get your paycheck every month, or how much you're making every month. How do you break down what goes where? How much should you put towards your debt? How much should you put in savings? How much should you spend? How much is too much for rent? What kind of parameters do you guys utilize there?
Yeah. The general rule that you try to follow is saving 20% of your income. And that's of your after-tax income. So if you're self-employed, you have to kind of do the math on it. If you are a W-2, it's done for you. But then saving 20% of your paycheck each month. That is a great if you're doing that, you are in a great place in life. So, whatever you can do to get to saving 20% a month. If you have credit card debt, then you'll be putting that 20% towards your debt each month. You're not actually saving it yet. You're just paying off the debt. Once you pay off the debt, you keep saving that 20%, but then you get to keep it for yourself in your savings.
And would that 20% go towards investing? If someone, let's say they built up a 6-month emergency fund, They're doing good there. Would they then put that 20% into investing?
Exactly.
Okay, cool. And then everything else is your usual expenses.
Your needs and your wants. You could, split it up between 50% of your income spent on needs. So that includes rent, food, transportation, like your basic needs, whatever you actually need to spend money on, your utilities. And then 30% on wants. And that's things that you don't actually need to survive, but that you enjoy spending money on, like entertainment or travel or shopping.
And is that the sector you would say people should cut from their budgets first?
Generally, yeah. Yeah, you want to make sure you're eating and have a roof over your head. Yeah.
I also wonder, so many people are like, don't get that latte. You see that thing, like, don't get that cup of coffee. But like, also, if that cup of coffee is bringing you so much joy because it gets you out of the house for the day and spending that is almost a non-negotiable in some ways, like how can people start to parse through not living in complete scarcity, lack, fear, like, oh my gosh, I can't spend anything. There's no joy, especially if they have so much debt. I wouldn't want them to think, oh, I have this mountain ahead of me. I basically just have to like get through life in order to finally get to a place where I can have joy again or spend on things I love. How do you see a more holistic approach to that?
So we really try not to be creating sacrifice. Like we want you to save and have it feel good and not have it feel like sacrifice. And so one of the ways that we've seen this happen for our members is that when they do that values alignment, they actually realize that they feel better about their spending once they've done this kind of values audit. And so that's one way that actually doesn't feel like sacrifice because they're just choosing to be more aligned with what they care about. And then the other thing I'll say is like, I'm all about getting a matcha. It's like the highlight of my day, especially on like a busy work day. It gets me through. And I think there can be this like false belief that I need it. And like, what is it? Is it that you're getting out of the house and that's what you really love doing? And so can you go on a walk instead? Or can you like make your coffee and then walk outside and drink it? Or are there other ways to get at the same thing that you're desiring while spending less? There are some habits where it really makes sense to do that because it adds up and it's like could put a significant difference in the amount you're saving or the amount you're putting towards your debt. And some of the things are like, hey, this isn't that expensive and it brings me so much joy, so I'm going to keep it. But at least you've like done the analysis and you're choosing to keep it anyway.
Yeah, I often find too, especially when I was trying to like build up my savings and all of that, I loved going out for coffee. But instead of going out for coffee every single day, it was like, let me pick a couple of days a week. And that is like my special treat. And the rest of the time I'll make it at home. And then I also had a ritual of making coffee at home, which was great. You don't have to necessarily get rid of the thing or even like going out to dinner. You don't have to get rid of going out to dinner altogether, but can you intentionally choose the time you go out versus just mindlessly saying yes to every single dinner you're invited to?
Exactly. And when you actually ground this, we kind of skipped over this part, but when you ground it in what you're actually getting on the other side, like what is your vision for your life? You want to retire early or you want to build generational wealth for the first time in your family line. What is your bigger why for the reason that you're skipping the coffee? Because if you're just skipping the coffee to like pay off your debt, that's not inspiring. Mm-hmm. And so you have to have this like, bigger vision, image of the future you that you're taking care of, and remember that.
That's huge. Yeah. Because if you're just foregoing the coffee just to pay off debt, it feels very
awful.
Awful.
Yeah.
So we have a 2-year-old mini Labradoodle at home named Theo. He's the best. And over the years, he became a bit of a picky eater. He would eat anything when he was a puppy. But as he got a little bit older, he started to kind of poo-poo some of his food. And we really had to trial and error different types of food to see what would get him to eat consistently, which is also hard because we want to make sure to give him the cleanest, most human grade, sustainable, non-synthetic food out there. And when I stumbled upon Sundays for Dogs, I'm telling you, it was like the perfect dog food to come in at the perfect time. Not only is Theo obsessed with it and gets so excited to eat it every single time time we put it in his bowl. But it is human grade, all natural meats and superfood, 0% synthetic, no artificial ingredients, and has been so good for his health and digestion. There's no thawing or refrigeration. It is all an air drying process, so you can just pour and serve. And the best thing is they're on subscription. So no running out to the pet store every couple days or every couple weeks to get new food. You just get it delivered directly to your door, and you can pause your subscription anytime if you need. You can get 40% off your first order of Sundays by going to sundaysfordogs.com/TBM or use code TBM all caps at checkout. Again, that's TBM all caps at checkout for 40% off your first order of Sundays. Enjoy. Okay, what would be if you had like your finance foundation? These are the things that if you check all of these off, you are financially set up for success. And people are going to be at different levels at this. But what are the things that you're like, okay, as you start to make money, these are the things that need to be in place to know that you have a good foundation?
Yeah. So there's two ways I want to answer this. One is like, what are the actual physical things you have in place? And then two is like, what is the mindset? So let me just first talk about the mindset, and then we'll talk about the things to have in place. So I just took my 1.5-year-old to swim class this morning, and I just thought about how they start with like bubbles and kicking. It's like the basics. And it's the same with finances. Learning to save and then getting your money working for you. And if you can be excited about those two things, you are so set up. So learning to save is making more than you spend. It comes from either earning more or spending less, but just adopting like a saver's mindset, a way of being that means you're saving money each month. That's kind of fundamental. And then getting your money to work for you. And we'll talk through kind of different ways to do that. But in the beginning, that's just a high yield savings account. And then later, that's really like investing and growing your money faster.
So good. The savers mentality, I feel like, is where I see people get stuck a lot. Like that is where they're in that paycheck to paycheck. That is where they don't have that emergency fund enough to float them between jobs or as their bridge to their next dream position. What are some insights you have to adopt that savers mindset that feels exciting? Because I could see someone being like, yeah, I could save the money, or I could spend it on new clothes. That would feel amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, we talked a lot about this in our Money Reset Retreat, which we are hosting next week on June 28th, next Saturday. Exciting. It's an all-day long virtual retreat. And in it, we introduced the concepts of your survivor and your creator. And there are these two ways of relating to money. And the survivor is about getting by. And your survivor is really strong, and your survivor has gotten you through a lot. But your survivor is the one who's, not really looking at the financial picture and not willing to shift anything. They're like, I've gotten by, so I'm going to keep getting by. And when you shift into your creator, which is like, what do I really want to create with my life and with my financial life? And what is my bigger vision here? And how am I setting myself up now to like really support me in the future? That's your creator. And so we do an exercise where we help people get into that creator mindset, because that's really what it takes. Is you have to remember that you're doing this for future you, to make your life easier in 10, 20, 30 years. And so it makes it so you're a little bit more willing to do the thing that you need to do today for that future person.
And I also love that it's planning for future you versus like, I also see the saver mentality go too extreme, where people are like so afraid to spend money, so afraid to go outside their budget, even though they have it. They could be really financially doing great, but they're so scared of that was outside my budget or that was that. And I guess the creator mindset helps them realize, hey, we are safe here. We're good. We've survived. We're okay. We can start spending this.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one thing I definitely relate to that persona. It was indoctrinated in me to save money. And so I went to an extreme. And so one just tip for those folks is to give yourself basically like an amount of money that's like you have to spend this. And if you don't spend it, you give it away. And so use it or lose it, but give it to your favorite charity if you don't spend it. But really like to kind of get them in the mindset of like, I am okay. I can spend this. And it's an abundance exercise of like trusting that there is enough. And that's a whole other thing we get into.
Oh, yeah. The trust of it coming in and going out, I think, is a huge, huge nervous system processing for so many people. There's also, I think, one of the biggest fears I see pop up so many times is like the fear that even if they start getting on solid footing, the rug's going to get pulled out from under them. A big expense will come out of nowhere. Something will happen in the world. They'll have a medical bill. There's just this fear that like, even if I get ahead, is it even going to matter? Because what if the rug gets ripped out from under me? Do you see that come up a lot with your community too?
I see this a lot. I mean, I also see this with my co-founder. My business partner has a story of growing up, she didn't know if it was going to be there or not. Like, she had an allowance and then the allowance stopped. And so she adopted this mindset of, I never know if it's going to leave, if it's not going to be available. And she teaches a lot on basically healing your money story and your money blocks and taking on new beliefs that like, I can take care of myself and I can make sure that the money comes. And what are the ways that she can stay in control?
I think that's such a big piece, is feeling like you can handle, because they're so, especially when you get into setting up retirement accounts, setting up investment accounts, there's no one, like I remember when I set up my Roth IRA, I did it myself on Vanguard, which I'm telling you guys, I procrastinated doing this for way too long. And when I finally did it, I was like, that's it. This is what I've been so afraid to do for so long. I thought I was going to I don't know what I thought was going to happen, but it wasn't as scary as I thought. It feels like, at least maybe this is my money story, it feels like it's for the elite. It feels like it's for people over there who are millionaires. It's not for the everyday person to set up. And if you do it, you could lose your money. That was the story that I was kind of bringing to that world of retirement funds, investing, all of those things. And it wasn't until I faced my fears and I was like, I'm going to figure this out. I know I have to do this. I'm going to figure this out and set it up. My entire financial landscape changed after that.
Yeah, because then you see yourself as an investor. You become the person that you never related to before. We see this all the time. The story of I'm not the someone who invests. Other people invest, but not me. And it's the truth of it is that you build wealth from investing. And so if you're not investing, you're not going to be building wealth. There's no way around it. Your money has to grow faster than you're able to make it grow. And especially in the face of inflation, you have to be investing.
I think that's a new sort of paradigm relationship people have to rethink money, is that you're not going to build wealth just by saving. You're not going to build wealth just getting annual raises at your job. So what are those big ways that you can actually set yourself up long-term through investing? So once someone is able to put that 20% aside to their savings, what type of retirement account should they set up? When do they set it up? And what does that process look like?
So it's different for everyone, depending on, your income level and your employment status. There's lots of different retirement accounts out there. There's a Roth IRA, there's a traditional IRA, there's your 401ks or 403bs. If you're self-employed, there's SEP IRAs. There's a whole field of them out there. And I would say it doesn't matter. Have at least one and maybe two of them. So if you have a 401k at your work, and especially if you have a match, if your employer offers a match, take advantage of that for sure. The match is free money, and the 401k, it's set up for you, and there's pretty limited investment options in there, so it's hard to mess that up. So at least do the 401k or 403b. If you're able to save more than that, or if you don't have an employer, then either a Roth or a traditional IRA. You can set either of those up on your own. And then if you're self-employed, a SEP IRA or a solo 401k are good options. And the benefit of retirement accounts is that your money grows tax-free. So unlike money that you have in a brokerage account, you're paying tax on the gains every year. And with your retirement money, it gets to grow tax-free. So with some of them, you pay tax before you put it in. Some of them you pay tax when you take the money out. But it's growing tax-free in the meantime. And so it's just this huge bonus. And basically everyone should be taking advantage, maxing out their retirement accounts if they can.
And then this was one thing that prevented me from it initially, was that I was scared about, okay, now that I opened it, and a few friends have actually said this, they opened it and they thought that was it. Or it's open and then they put the money in and it's just sitting in the account, but it's not invested.
This happens all the time. Yeah.
So yeah, what do they do there?
Yeah. So a lot of people think like, oh, I have a Roth IRA. I put my money into it. And they think that the Roth is the investment. But the Roth is just a place to hold the money. It's just like a bank account.
Yeah.
You have to take the next step of taking that money and then investing it in something. And generally, when you're investing from a retirement account, the thing you're investing in is the stock market. And so there are, we have a whole course on this called Intentional Investing, where we teach you how to build your own values-aligned investment portfolio. So that allows you to pick different ETFs and funds that are aligned to your personal values, so you can know that your money is doing good while it's also growing for you. But basically, the step is that you find a fund, you buy it, and that is the step of getting invested.
And then do you think most people can invest on their own, or do they need to hire financial advisors? What are your thoughts there?
Everyone can invest on their own.
Amazing.
Absolutely. Everyone can do it. There's a couple things you need to learn, and then you are so good to do it on your own. It's not complicated. Financial advisors end up charging you 1 to 2% of your assets, and they often do not return higher than the stock market. And so you're both paying a fee to them, and then you're getting average or subpar returns. And so we really encourage everyone to learn to invest and do it on their own, so they get to keep more of their money. And then they also just know how it's done. There's a lot of confidence and empowerment that comes from doing it yourself.
I love that you said that, because I remember I was like, okay, I'm feeling brave enough to open this account, to put money in, and I'm going to buy my first set of stocks here and start investing. But I remember thinking I'm definitely doing this wrong. I should be hiring someone. Who am I to be investing my own Roth IRA? I know nothing about this stuff. And honestly, I'm going to expand you guys if you haven't done it yet. It's a little bit of intuitive research. You can put in what are things that are safe, or you're saying, align with my values, or the VOO, which is it's an EFT, right? That has a bunch of different companies in it. It's similar to S&P. See, this is how little I know. And I'm still investing in my own Roth, and it's doing really good.
There you go.
But it's just finding those things that you can put a little bit in over time that are, I don't know if they're necessarily more stable, but they're more steady because they're a higher collection of different stocks that are performing at that time.
Yeah. Yeah. We could get into funds, and I could talk for hours about this stuff. It's one of my favorite topics. But the benefit of investing in funds is that they are instantly diversified. So you're getting access to hundreds of companies at once. And so back when I first started investing, I invested in individual companies. And that's so much riskier because I was counting on that one company having a great year. And when you invest in a fund, you get 101. So if one company has a bad year, that's okay. Your returns are probably still going up. And so the benefit of funds is just, it's made it so easy. That's why I can so confidently say that every single one of you can invest, because it's a lot harder to mess it up when you're investing in funds.
Okay, so they set up retirement, and then after they have retirement, they're maxing that out, that's getting invested. Then do you recommend another investment piece to their portfolio?
Yeah, if you have, this is someone who's saving, they're already saving the 20%. Maybe that 20% is allowing them to max out their retirement account. If they're saving on top of that, maybe, they're getting a bonus that year and they want to invest it. Once you have maxed out all of the retirement accounts that you have access to, or if you know that you want to access this money before you actually retire, you want to invest it, you're young, you want to buy a house in 5 years, but you want to invest it in the meantime so that it can grow, then you would put it in a brokerage account. And the reason that you put it in a separate account is because there's no limit on when you can take that money out. So it's yours the whole time, versus retirement accounts. You can't take that money out until you hit retirement age. There are some exceptions actually on an IRA. If you're a first-time home buyer, you can take it out of your retirement account and not pay the penalty on it. So there are some like flexible pieces in there that are worth looking into. But generally, if you're looking for another option, a brokerage account gives you complete flexibility.
Okay. I think this is huge. I think, yeah, once you guys have like some of you can see it kind of stacking in the episode. It's like you paying off your debt, you're putting away, you have that 20%. Like, how do you get your budget to the place where you can be putting 20% aside to that savings piece? And then from that savings piece, paying off the debt, building up the security, the FU fund, then you're starting the retirement funds, then you have other funds. And once you're at that place, then you can see how wealth can build upon each other and compound. What would be your advice for someone who has that 20% to give to their different investment places and it's kind of a crazy market? Where it's very unexpected. Maybe they do have money in the market. I know a lot of people were like, do you sell whenever it dips? I'm like, don't sell, don't sell. But what advice would you have for someone who's like, should I just take money out and keep it in a high yield savings right now? What is the protocol for when things feel really up in the air?
So I know it's tempting to pull your money out. And the way that you lose money investing is to take your money out when the value has gone down. And so if you're someone who's had their money invested, it's gone down in value, the best thing is to hold on to it. Just wait it out. Especially if you have more than 5 or 10 years to invest, the likelihood of that going back and even higher is high. The market has had positive returns in 73% of the years that it's been around. So
Wow.
You're generally more often than not going to see positive returns. And the average over 30 years has been 9%. And so, yes, there are down years, but over the last 30 years, going up 9%. That's basically like what you want to target for the returns that you're looking at. And when you use a high yield savings account, you're looking at like 3.5% to 4.5% right now. And when the economy goes down, that rate drops as well. So that can go down to like 2 or 3%. So really investing in the stock market over the long term is one of the most effective ways to build wealth. Things to, watch out for are that you want to make sure you have your emergency fund. And that's, again, so you don't have to pull anything out of your investments. So you can let them ride out the waves. So if you're someone who's kind of like feeling wary about the moment that we're in, just bulk up your emergency fund and then keep investing. So that can offer like a little bit of peace of mind.
How long of an emergency fund? Like how...
Yeah.
What is the minimum? And then what is the max? What is like, you're getting crazy. You need to invest this.
Yeah. I mean, this totally depends on, are you living on your own? Do you have a family? How secure is your job? What's your backup plan? Like there's so many factors. I will say we work with predominantly women and people who identify as women, and we tend to keep way more in our emergency funds than we need to, or, than average. And it's because it makes us feel safe. And so it's like whatever makes you feel safe, do not keep more than a year of expenses in there. Like that is already at the very high end. I would say like 6 months is really the max you need. And if you're like really trying to manage your anxiety, you could have up to a year, but it's like generally unnecessary. And think about it like this, like how long is it going to take you to have income again? This is really, the emergency fund is like, if you lose your job, it's going to get you by. And so, it's probably not going to take you more than a couple months to get a job. And so that's all you really need to have it.
Okay. Good advice. Good advice. I'm like, I have too much in my
And it's so common. I do too. I will be the first to admit it. And there's a fear of investing it, of not having it available. But I speak to both of us, like we are missing out on the potential of that money to grow by keeping it in savings.
Yeah, there's this trope of like, okay, I'll be safe when it's here. I'll be safe when it's here. And that's kind of me in my emergency fund. I'm like, okay, I'll invest more when it's at this level. And then I've passed that level. And I'm like, okay, well, actually it needs to be this level now. Like the bar keeps shifting. And I think that's similar with people with income too, right? They're like, okay, I'll feel good about my money story when I'm making X amount. And then they make that and they're like, actually, no, now that I'm here, I need to make this amount. And the number keeps shifting and shifting. And that's when it's like, okay, there's an internal safety story going on here. And so many times just reminding yourself of your own resilience. How likely is it? We have a worst case scenario meditation where it's like, how likely is it that if you're unemployed, it's going to last an entire year? Like, is there 0 ways that you can make any income in that whole year? That's probably very unlikely. There are probably a lot of things, odd jobs you can pick up amongst that time too.
One of the things that has helped me, and I'll offer this in case it helps you or any of our listeners, is automating your investments. And so instead of having to think about it or make yourself do it, set up an automatic investment. This can come from your checking account straight into your investment account, into one of your funds. Vanguard makes this really easy to do. And just set it for a certain amount either week or each month. And just like force it to come out of your account. I did that a few months ago and I've been so grateful for it. And it's especially great when the market is changing so much, because in any given day, you're like, should I invest today? Like, I don't know. It could be going up, could be going down. And instead, this takes your mind out of it. And it's just like, you're investing every Monday. And when you invest consistently, it's called dollar cost averaging. We have a blog post on it, but when you do that, you're basically getting the market at wherever it is that time. So it averages out and you're basically, your returns are going to be slightly better by doing that versus investing all at once.
That was a huge piece of freedom for me as well, because I was like, oh, if I'm going to invest myself, I need to check the stock apps every day to see what they're doing and only invest when they're on a high. And I thought I was going to have to monitor everything so intensely, and monitoring stocks is just not a passion of mine. So I was like, oh, this sucks. And then I realized and learned about dollar cost averaging. I'm like, oh, it's going to average. Sometimes I'll buy on the high, sometimes I'll buy on a low, but overall it's going to go up.
Exactly. It's when we tell people you do not have to read the news at all to be a good investor, there's this huge sense of relief, because so many people are like, I don't want to track this. I don't want to be having to look at the stock market. And the truth is you don't.
Because you see all of those stock market movies where they're like, buy, sell. You're like, oh, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. It's one of the things we talk about a lot since we work with mostly women, is just how intense the environment of finances are. That every time it's portrayed in the media, it's just this rowy, aggressive, high intensity environment. We're like, it doesn't have to be that way. Finances can be self-care. You can look at your budget while you're in the bath. It can be a totally different environment if you choose to make it that way.
You've heard us talk about our Pathway membership, but what actually is it? It is an all-access membership where you can get every single workshop that we've ever created, all of our deep imaginings, which are our reprogramming audios, to help you manifest. You can access it on the desktop or in the TBM app on your phone directly. We, of course, have our foundational workshops, such as our How to Manifest workshop, which takes you step by step through this neural manifestation process to actually unblock, expand, and take aligned action to connect with your manifestations. Our How to Be Magnetic workshop, our Inner Child and Shadow workshops. And then, of course, we have a workshop if you are in a rut, if you're in a rock bottom, if you're in an up level, perhaps you need to set boundaries. Maybe you want to focus specifically on the block of money or love. It is all in there. And then twice a year as a community, we gather for our challenges. Our challenges are one of the most effective parts of the process because you get accountability. It is really a handheld experience in how to work through whatever the theme of that year's challenge is. And now to my absolute favorite part of our membership, which I think in and of itself would be worth the entire weight of the membership if we just had this alone, our Deep Imagining library. This library encompasses over 60 neural reprogramming audio tracks. They're self-hypnosis tracks that will really support you in any step of this journey. If you're needing calming, nervous system regulation, unblocking with a specific test or trigger, going through a difficult time, processing a big emotion, or maybe you just want reinforcing, how to reinforce those neural pathways of confidence, abundance, self-worth, deservingness, and connection with your dream life. And not only that, if you go to the app, we just launched Deep Imagining playlists where we're grouping different themes of DIs together. So no matter what you're going through, you have something for you. And we're constantly dropping new playlists as well as brand new Deep Imaginings. And if you need more support in your process, you can go to our brand new video series, Channelings with Lacey, where she touches on the exact energetics that are going on right now in manifestation and how it may apply to your life. So obviously, I am a huge fan of this membership. The peace of mind I get from being able to have all the tools I need at my disposal, no matter where I'm at with my life, if shit's hitting the fan, if I'm feeling dysregulated, if I'm needing to come back to my center, if I'm needing to brainstorm or daydream or connect with what my vision for my future is, every single tool is in there to support me. And don't just take my word for it. We have thousands of testimonials of people who have had incredible success stories with these tools. So take the guesswork out of your manifestation process and get real tools that are going to give you real results. And we have our big summer sale going on right now where you can get the absolute lowest prices of the season, $22 a month and over 25% off discount for the membership for the entire year. So if you've been thinking about joining the pathway, if you are sparking an interest in our money challenge, which is going on right now, which will help take you to your next level of abundance in just 3 weeks, now is the time to join with our sale. It will only be available for a limited time, but the money challenge will be available all summer. Okay, this question popped in. What about if someone has an opportunity to have a financial, like something that they're going to spend a lot more money on, whether that's purchasing a home, maybe getting a new lease, getting a new car, some sort of financial jump where they're going to be spending more than they typically spend. And it's going to increase the quality of their life, hopefully, in a really positive way. How do they know that they're ready to make that leap? What things should they be taking a look at to be like, okay, this is a smart decision versus, dang, I just dug myself into a hole?
Yeah. I wish there were an easier answer than this, but for a big purchase like this, you have to run numbers. So you have to basically look at, okay, if I'm buying a house or I'm making a big investment, what is that actually going to cost me each month? So if I'm getting a mortgage, what's the interest rate? What are my payments going to be? Am I paying that from my income? Am I renting part of the house? And is that going to be covered by rental income? Really working it out because you can't go back on those decisions. You know, buying a house is probably the biggest expense, biggest purchase you'll make in your entire life. And so really thinking through ahead of time, what can you afford? And it's always tempting to like spend more than you can afford because you fall in love with something. But really going back to, can we cover this expense? Because there's nothing worse than not being able to pay it and then being in this house that you then resent because you're getting in fights with your partner and ruins everything. So really, not speaking from experience. No, yeah, just working out the numbers and making sure you can really do it.
Okay, so it sounds like really understanding, also with home ownership, it's like all the hidden costs, the property tax, if a little bigger emergency fund in case the plumbing breaks, or you have the perks of home ownership there. If there's maintenance,
utilities, maintenance,
things like that. Okay, so really running the accurate number and then looking at your budget and saying like, okay, do we still have that 20% to go to savings? What if someone's like, well, it dips into that 20%, but it's worth it? Would you say it's worth it? What would be the thought there?
Yeah, this comes back to basically their vision and their goals. Are they trying to retire at a certain age? And are they on track for that? And can they still be on track if they're contributing just 15% or 10% for a period of time? Or they're like, I'm willing to work longer because I really want to live in this house. So it's trade-offs.
Okay, so it's really breaking down like, does it fit in the budget? Everything that's coming in each month, do we have enough to cover it? That would probably be a good start. And then I think with the real estate market being so wild right now, especially for people in big cities and all of that, I've seen a lot of discussion online where it's like that down payment on the house, which is for a lot of big cities, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars, in some cases, is that better invested in the stock market that could have a 9 9% return? Or do we think that we're going to have a 9% return over time if we ever sell the house one day? Any thoughts there?
Oh, got it. I thought you were asking about should you invest the money that you're planning to use on the house, which is another question we get.
Oh, yes, that too. That's a good one too.
Yeah, which the answer to that is no, because
Okay, that's high yield savings.
Yeah, exactly. If you're planning to use the money in the next 5 years, you put it in a high yield savings instead of investing it. And that's just because you don't want to have to take it out when there's a dip in the market. So 5 years or more, invest it. 5 years or less, high yield savings. The question I think you asked was basically, should I buy a house as my investment or should I invest that money? It's basically, should I rent and invest that money? And this depends on the city and on the market and the real estate market, essentially, because most real estate isn't going up in value as quickly as the stock market is. And so for someone who, when the stock market is doing great and they live in a really expensive place, they're better off renting and keeping that money invested. If they live in a place where real estate is less and it's a hot real estate market and things are growing in value really fast, you could be better off buying a house and selling it later. That being said, I don't want to tempt anyone into real estate because it's just it's a big upfront investment. And generally, the way that you'll increase your return is either getting really lucky because you buy it in a place that is hot, or you are doing work on the house, and that really requires you having the background or the connections to be a contractor or know who to work with. Otherwise, it can end up costing you more than you'll make from it.
So if one of your values is flipping homes or interior design or something with a home in that regard, then that could be a really good option for you.
In the right market.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Good to know. We wound up leasing the house that we moved into, and a lot of people were like, why? Why didn't you just buy? That doesn't make any sense. And when we ran the numbers and looked at it, to own this home, our monthly payments would have been significantly higher. And then our whole down payment would have been just gone. And the real estate market in LA is really up in the air. Houses are sitting for a long time. And we've never lived in a house before. We've lived in major cities in apartments forever. We don't know what it's like to, obviously when I was a child, I lived in a house, but I didn't care for the house like my mom would have. So we wanted to get a feel for what are the things you have to think about and take care of? What does the maintenance look like on a house? What are the unexpected things we could have never known by not living in one? And so we decided to rent, and it was the best decision for us. I'm so happy we did that. Even the first week, little things like plumbing or this or that wound up happening. And the owner was like, yeah, no problem, taken care of. And we're like, that would have been such a bummer to now be so stretched in our budget and gotten rid of this huge down payment and then had a plumbing issue that costs thousands of dollars on top of it. All of that at once would have been a lot. And it was really nice to just have the rent amount.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's this stigma of oh, I don't want to rent. I'm just throwing my money away. And it's often a great decision, actually a great financial decision to rent.
Yeah. If you're investing.
Yeah. If you're
Yeah. Because then I see people rent and then they'll spend money on fancy cars or this or that instead. I'm like, you could be making money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's that second mindset of getting your money to work for you and thinking about what are the ways that I'm getting my money to work for me, either real estate or investing in the stock market.
What is one of the biggest takeaways or things that's on your heart right now that you really want people to understand when it comes to money? Maybe something you're seeing come up in your community or just something that's been on your mind lately where you're I really just wish people understood this. What would that be?
The first thing that comes to mind is around community. Dow Janes started as an investment club in my living room, teaching my friends how to invest because they asked me to do that. It was 10 of us sitting on the couch talking about money and plans for the future. And that became the online version of Dow Janes. And we've now served hundreds of thousands of women. The sense of community that is created when women are talking about money together is just so different from the typical financial industry. as we've talked about today, there's so much related to emotions and your money story, and that's hard to get through on your own. And so having a place where you can talk about it, where you can see other people who have the same stories or see people who are just a little bit further ahead on your journey and that they can do it so you can do it, is really just like so much more motivating than kind of doing it in a vacuum or figuring it out on your own. And so in this, moment when there's, a really intense economic and political climate and people are being pushed away in all directions, just coming together and remembering like when we are together, especially as a community of women, how powerful that can be.
So huge. I was talking to a friend who very successful working in one of the big tech companies and was in one of the mass layoffs, very pregnant, about to have a baby, and like, oh my gosh, like panicked. What do I do? And thank God she had a connection to the other coworkers, because they were like, oh, well, we can file for this unemployment thing, this, blah, blah, all that. And she was like, oh my God, that's like almost a year. I'm already getting paid. Like, this is amazing. So having that community, you become aware of these things that you wouldn't have become aware of before that can actually support you throughout the process. Even thinking about the expander level of it. When I've up-leveled my income the most, it's because someone else told me how much they were making. And I was like, wait, you're making that, doing that? I didn't even know that was possible.
Yeah, exactly. Those are two great examples. It's like we need to just be talking about it more. And it's how we learn. It's how we've always learned as women, is from each other. And, I feel similarly. There's things I hear from my friends and I'm like, oh, well, now I'm going to go do that. Of course, because you're doing it. So it's accessible.
Yes, huge. Okay, where can people find you, connect with you, talk about this upcoming launch? I think everyone, especially the timing, your webinar will be during I think one of the last weeks of our challenge, which is all around taking aligned action. This is a perfect aligned action to take.
Perfect aligned action is join us at the Dow Janes Money Reset Retreat. So on Saturday, June 28th, all day, it's I think 9 to 3, we're doing a virtual retreat, and it's only $47. And for folks who listen from here, you can use the coupon code EXPANDED and get $10 off. So for $37, you get a full day of content. And we'll be talking all about what I talked about, the survivor to creator mindset shift. We'll be talking about consistency and creating a weekly money ritual and how you can start taking care of your money in a way that feels really good. So dowjanes.com/retreat is how you find more info about the Money Reset Retreat. It's all about financial wellness. And then if you just want to stay connected to us, you can go to dowjanes.com, join our newsletter. We have tons of free blog posts and YouTube videos. We're on Instagram at dow.janes. So lots of places to stay connected.
So cool. I'm just like, that is the most perfect timing, because they need okay, now what do we do?
And it's so action based. We have little action steps to take at each portion throughout the day. So it's really yes, there's teaching, but it's also about taking steps.
And there's a replay available. So if you can't,
and there's a replay.
Yeah. If you can't make the exact date, you can get the whole video afterwards.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah. Replay is available.
Thank you, Britt. This is amazing. The work you do is amazing. I'm so glad that you opened up your living room circle investing club to the entire world. It is so, so needed and important to empower women around money.
Absolutely. It's become our life's mission. So really believe in it so wholeheartedly. And such an honor to be here with you today. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. I hope you guys enjoyed that episode and are starting to get some hints and ideas of certain aligned actions you can start to take when it comes to your money and finances today. In week 3, you can add them to your aligned action list of all the things you want to put in place when it comes to money and abundance. We will also be releasing magnetic cohorts in week 3, where you can meet up with our community members who want to host little virtual meetups to take aligned action towards your money and abundance goals. So if you are trying to set up your Roth IRA or a high yield savings account, or maybe you're wanting to do a little bit of research on investing, or maybe you just need an accountability buddy to help you record content for your brand page, you can meet up virtually, find our map, you'll see the link in the show notes, and host a little cohort to keep each other accountable. I'm so excited for this. We're going to talk on it a little bit more in the coming weeks and such, but this is a huge way to keep yourself accountable and to destigmatize the shame around wherever you're at with money, because someone else is likely in that position and needs to take a similar aligned action. For DIs for you guys, because I always give one at the end, go to our Money Challenge DI playlist. Our competency DI will be releasing Monday, June 23rd. So if you're listening after that, I would listen to that one because it is heavy hitting and will really help you honor and feel confident with your skills and value. And if you were listening before then, I would go in the Money Challenge playlist and listen to our Rooted in Abundance DI, our Abundant Life DI, to really understand what you want to feel when it comes to money and abundance. And again, it's not too late to join our challenge. You can join anytime, completely self-facilitated. We're so excited to see you in there. All right, we'll see you next week.